afraid of the dark? Just relax and let the darkness fall over you.
Welcome to Afraidish, a podcast where every 4 episodes we venture into a new state and take a deep dive into the history and paranormal while enjoying some tasty adult beverages. From ghost sightings to hauntings, urban legends and cryptids, let's get weird and afraid-ish together. Welcome back, and this is a bonus episode 3.
Woohoo!
I'm Paul.
And I'm Ashley.
We'll recap Kentucky in this episode, and add a little extra info, like recap,
some fun facts,
more fun facts, and then get into some famous people, and then highlight a few famous people.
Hell yeah!
So it's been
long time,
long time, several months.
Yeah.
Last July.
Yeah.
Anyways.
I keep telling you, we need to record. And you're like, yeah,
I know.
Exactly like that.
Well, I've been busy. Yeah, I started a new job at ST's Tannery and Tannery Accessories.
Oh, yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah, I've been, I got stuck there.
You met Ed Gein?
No. Met Tom.
I heard he's the manager.
That's Tom. Tom's the owner. If you don't know the reference, go back to Tennessee episode 4. You might get it.
Might.
If not, don't worry about it. Anyways.
I don't think anybody's worrying about anything.
I know.
But they're probably, I don't know. The internet's a mean place. So
yeah.
Who knows?
Anyways. So, in episode 9, Ashley talked about Mammoth Cave National Park.
Yeah. And
I talked about Waverly Hills Sanatorium. It was basically the podcast about the White Death, a.k.a.
Tuberculosis?
Tuberculosis, yeah. My mind went blank for a second.
I was like,
duh. It's been too long.
Effect?
No, it's just been too long. We haven't recorded in forever. Anyways, I'll just go through the hauntings of Waverly Hills real quick. Okay. So what I have was thousands of people were infected with tuberculosis. At the turn of the 20th century, many hospitals were overflowing. That meant particular institutions had to be built. Sanatoriums were created to save the lives of the infected, but that wasn't the case for many. If someone had to go to Waverly Hills, they most likely died there. The same goes for the children of family members who were there. Today, many ghost hunters and curious people have taken tours. Many reports of children's laughter can be heard throughout the 5th floor of the building. A little boy named Timmy can be seen with a leather ball. He's thought to have fallen or even pushed off the 5th floor where the children used to play.
You know, there's always a little boy with a ball. Like, it's like the white lady of hospitals.
Yeah, I mean, not always, but, there's... like in certain hotels, there's some hotels with the ghost boy. And
no, like anytime there's a child ghost, it's a boy with a ball. It's like the castles over in like Europe. They all have a white lady.
Yeah.
Or a lady in white.
It's true.
There's always a boy with a ball.
Yeah. Anyways. So if you go there and a little leather ball rolls and hits your foot, little Timmy wants to play with you.
Aww.
In 1928, a nurse was found hanging from an exposed pipe or light fixture in room 502. She allegedly died by suicide. She was 29 years old, pregnant and unmarried. Supposedly, she was depressed over the situation and took her own life.
Is it possible the baby daddy may have had something to do with it?
Yeah, we talked about this in the episode.
Yeah, I don't remember the episode. It's been that long, and I listened to the podcast.
I literally listened to all of them at work today.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry for you.
And in 1932, another nurse, later in room 502, was thought to have jumped off the top floor to her death, although it is also believed she may have been pushed.
Ooh.
There is no evidence to prove either story to be true. But it's possible that, they got pregnant by a doctor. And
Well, I'd say it's a 50-50. Like, a nurse in a tuberculosis hospital in what year you said?
First one's 1928, and then the second one's 1932.
So, I mean, suicide is a very valid at that time, I would say. But also, maybe it wasn't a suicide?
Yeah.
Like, it's 50-50 either way.
Or if they found out they got...
knocked up?
Well, that or...
Tuberculosis,
then...
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah. Especially with the fucking things they were doing to people with tuberculosis, cutting their chests open.
I know. That was crazy.
Yeah, at that time, I probably would have been like, I'd rather be dead than go through that.
It's crazy. Other common sightings include an older woman with chains around her wrists, often believed to have been a resident when the building was a senior center. This ghost howls for help only to run away screaming when anyone approaches her.
Oh.
Doppelgangers, also known as double walkers, are a type of spirit that can mimic the appearance, voice, and mannerisms of anyone or anything it encounters.
Mm-hmm.
Tour guides at Waverly Hills have reported seeing doppelgangers of themselves and others.
Of themselves?
Yeah.
Ooh, if a spirit's bold enough to show you a doppelganger of yourself, man.
Yeah, there's theories like if you see a doppelganger of yourself, that's like a omen that you might die soon or whatever. I don't know.
Well, if the tour guides are seeing doppelgangers of themselves and not dying.
Yeah. Anyways, in some cases, the doppelgangers were almost identical except for black holes where the eyes should be.
Yuck, I don't like that. That reminds me of my least favorite
black eye.
Shut up.
It's my favorite.
I hate it. Oh my god. I literally have nightmares about BEKs.
Anyway, another famous apparition is the creeper. Due to its creeping, crawling movements up and around the walls, ceilings, and floors, while there's no explanation for who or what the creeper might be, some think he might have been a mistreated patient whose contorted appearance reflects the trauma they experienced.
Yeah? I mean, fuck, man, that's deep.
Yeah.
I don't want to think too much on that.
It's said that proximity to the creeper brings an overwhelming feeling of dread.
Oh, fuck? Duh.
At any rate, that's a lot of darkness for a place founded on the principle of fighting disease with sunshine.
Yeah. That's sad.
Yeah. And Ashley talked about...
Mammoth Caves, Kentucky?
Mammoth Caves.
Yes.
And you have a ghost story?
Well, I couldn't find my notes for this episode. Well, I found some of them. But they were the rough draft that was obviously written with voice text because they made no sense whatsoever. So I've pulled up this National Parks Traveler article talking about the ghosts. And I do remember, as I'm reading through this, it's sparking in my memory. In Mammoth Caves, they have a variety of tours, but one of them is called the Violet City Tour, and it's where at one point during the tour, they turn off all the electric lights, and one of the tour guides speaks to the audience just by the light of like a old-fashioned lantern.
That's cool. And
during that portion of the tour, there's a lot of kind of paranormal activity that happens. There was one particular instance where one of the tour guides named Larry noticed a African-American family standing in the back of the rest of the group, which he thought was a bit odd because he didn't remember any non-white people on the tour at that time. And then it kind of makes sense that they would be there because at one point that room was used as like a gathering place for the miners to attend church services.
Yeah.
So they actually refer to that particular cavern as the Methodist Church. So it could be a family attending church service for eternity, which sounds like my idea of hell, if I'm being honest. Yep. Other instances, sometimes the Rangers will be shoved during the blackout portion, turn around and nobody's back there or behind them, random stuff like that. Apparently on one tour, there was a situation where a woman asked the guide, "Who's that up there?" And they looked up, and on like a ledge of rocks, there was a man holding a lantern, old-timey lantern, and he just vanished before their eyes. But he looked like one of the possible slaves that used to do the tours back in the olden days.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I have on Mammoth Cave.
Yeah, and if you want to listen to the episode, that's Kentucky episode 1.
Hopefully I have more ghost stories.
Yeah.
I seriously could not find my notes.
You do. I listened to it today, and there's a few more.
Okay. Cool beans.
And in episode 10, I talked about Bobby Mackey's Music World.
Oh, yeah, Bobby Mackey's.
Yep. Here are some paranormal happenings in Bobby Mackey's.
What's not happening paranormally in Bobby Mackey's?
Some still believe the building's basement holds the gateway or portal to hell itself. Mm-hmm. A reference to the long-abandoned slaughterhouse well.
Oh, okay.
Remember, it was built over the slaughterhouse.
That's right.
Yeah. Stairs near the well in the old slaughterhouse has been deemed the stairs to lead to nowhere.
Oh.
Phantom footsteps can often be heard on those stairs.
Fun stuff.
Some believe that spirits can't cross flowing water, so the rare northern current of the Licking River may be keeping the dark forces trapped inside the building.
Which, that's funny.
Yeah, we talked about this, yeah.
The Haint Blue? No, okay.
No.
Well, in the South, it's very common to paint either the floor or like the roof of your covered porch a very specific shade of blue that they call Haint Blue. Haint being Southern for haunt or ghost. Yeah. Because they believe that the ghosts think it's water and they can't cross it.
Yeah, you said in the episode, you don't understand how spirits have, like, they should be able to do...
Right, which I maintain that position. Yeah. I'm not saying I agree with that sentiment. I'm just saying it's funny because that's kind of a common theme throughout the South.
Yeah. And a former caretaker living in the upstairs apartment claims to have been demonically possessed by the spirits. His exorcism was performed in the club by a minister. Mm-hmm. A patron claims to have experienced suffocating heat, a flying trash can, and a man with a handlebar mustache repeating die game, in the men's restroom.
Jesus.
Yeah. That article says it's Latin for dying well or dying good, but at the time I researched said it was the day of the game, if it's actually Latin, but who knows?
It could just be an angry drunk man hollering incoherently.
Literally, you said that in the And then I said something about maybe he wants to play the die game, the dice.
Yeah, it could be. Or maybe he was mad at somebody who beat him at a game or cheated at a game.
Yeah.
You know? Probably not Latin. Like, I doubt anybody who would have been a patron at any point in time with a handlebar mustache at a bar called Bobby Mackey's, they probably don't speak Latin.
Yeah.
In life, they're not going to in death.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Bobby's first wife, Janet, claimed before her passing in 2009 to have been overcome by the scent of roses in the basement, grabbed around the waist, picked up, thrown down, and pushed downstairs by a force.
Jeez.
That resembled sketches of Alonzo Walling screaming, "Get out, get out." She refused to set foot in the club by herself again.
I wouldn't either.
And then that was from the story I told about Pearl, the girl that got beheaded.
Okay.
Because she was pregnant by her boyfriend and he wanted to get her...
abortion?
An abortion, yeah. Anyways.
So she got beheaded by him?
Yeah, and his roommate.
Really?
Yeah.
What a way... Why is that, we should just behead her? That's a really sadistic way to end someone's life.
I guess, to make sure nobody would recognize her, but they figured out who she was anyway, so... It's crazy. Bobby Mackey claims not to be a believer, but he did write a song entitled Johanna about the young girl who died by suicide in the basement in the 1950s. Bobby Mackey's friend Doug Hensley wrote the book Hell's Gate, which connects past events with the hauntings of the present. Prehistoric photos of Pearl Bryan match witnesses' descriptions of a headless ghost dressed in turn-of-the-century clothing, and pictures of Buck Brady also match reports of often seen ghosts.
You said prehistoric photos.
Why would I say prehistoric?
It's they had cameras in prehistory?
Okay. I meant to say historic photos. My mind just put prehistoric. I don't know. Anyways. Hot spots in the club include the spotlight room and catwalk over the stage, the well in the basement, the old china room, and the platform area near the kitchen. People have also claimed to see ghosts in the big pitted mirror in the main room. The club manager claims that she would go through the club several times and make sure everything was turned off and closed for the night. Then hours later, she'd find the bar lights were on, the front doors were unlocked, and the jukebox would be playing the anniversary waltz, even though the jukebox was still unplugged. That's
fun.
And did contain that song. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Another club employee has seen a dark, angry man behind the bar, and a spirit who called herself Johanna. She would often speak to him and leave the scent of roses in her wake.
Interesting.
There's a few other longer stories that, if you want to hear, just go back to Kentucky episode 2. I'm not going to get into it. Then Ashley talked about the Silbach Hotel.
Yes.
And the hauntings were...
One of the hauntings, a couple was awoken in the middle of the night to see a man staring out of the window of their hotel room. They said that he disappeared as soon as they turned on a light. One employee was working in the cafe when they caught a glimpse of an old woman in ragged clothes standing behind them in a mirror. When they turned around, guess what? Nobody was there. Of course, this hotel, I mentioned Lady in White earlier. The second most common ghost I found is a Lady in Blue.
Blue, yeah.
Also. So this hotel has a Lady in Blue. She's believed to be the ghost of a woman named Patricia Wilson, who, as the story goes, was waiting on her estranged husband. They were supposed to meet up and either reconcile or break up. They're supposed to meet up and have a conversation, and apparently he died in a car crash on his way to meet her, and when she found out, allegedly, she threw herself down the elevator shaft. But there's some speculation because her landlady was like, she wasn't waiting on her husband. She was out living her life. She said that she would be back. She left the house and I'll be back later, Ma. Though she never did return. She left on the afternoon of July 15th, and her body was found by a hotel employee on August 7th. So she was missing for quite a long time. Yeah, which is super sad, but apparently she was found on top of the elevator car, not at the bottom of the shaft.
Yeah.
So, super sad, whether it was self-inflicted or not, like, it didn't even give any reason why it wouldn't have been self-inflicted. Like, the article that I read, it just was like, there's speculation, because her landlady said she didn't seem sad.
Yeah.
But, you know, you never know. You know?
So, if you want to hear the whole episode, go back to Kentucky episode 2. Episode 11, I talked about the Kelly Hopkins encounter. I'm not going to go through that because it's basically little aliens going to Kelly, Kentucky, and they get fired at by some homeowners, and it was a whole ordeal, so...
Okay, I don't remember that.
Yeah, go back and listen if you want to hear about that. Ashley read a personal story.
I did?
Was possibly aliens or ghosts. Yeah, when the guy wrote online that he was sitting in his yard throwing stones, and his dad hollered for him, and there was like 2 entities behind him that he didn't know were there, and when his dad walked up, the things ran away.
Oh!
Yeah. When he was,
I remember that.
Yeah, that was when he was like 14, and yeah. That's a really good story.
Okay. I vaguely remember that now.
If you want to hear that, go back to Kentucky.
So his dad saw them.
Yes, he didn't know they were there, so.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ick. Just lots of ick.
In episode 12, Ashley surprised us with a Mad Lib.
I did, and you didn't like it.
It was alright.
Which is Paul Fry didn't like it.
And I talked about the Talbot Tavern. I know I got hung up on Talbot. I wanted to keep saying Talbert.
Talbert?
Yeah. And the ghost stories for Talbot Tavern. God damn it. It has always been known for the ghostly stories the locals and some guests told. The most famous ghostly visitor is supposedly Jesse James.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember this.
Another is the Lady in White.
Of course. What did I say?
Yeah. They always appear as apparitions. The other stories include round balls of light, orbs,
Okay.
moving around the room in the middle of the night, or flashes of light without cameras.
In people's eyes, like not in pictures. Like people are seeing this with their eyes?
Yeah.
Okay.
More stories include movements of objects without cause, such as forks and glasses on dining tables moving without anyone touching them, keys disappearing from the front desk and showing up down the hall on the floor later that day.
Mm-hmm.
Furniture has been known to start jumping up and down without any reason.
Fun.
Yeah, some have seen shadows walk out of dark corners into the light before disappearing. Sounds that most heard are music clocks chiming out during late night hours.
I was going to say, what's a music clock?
Yeah, there's a comma there.
Uh-huh.
Doors opening and closing when no one else is in the building, and lots of footsteps at all hours of the day. Knocking at doors with no one there when you open to see who is knocking.
Uh-huh.
An old piano was playing by itself, and voices were calling out from empty areas.
Oh, cool.
And then, I'm not going to get into this. There's a story about a lady seeing somebody, and then I guess the cook comes out, and they both see a figure, and they follow it into a landing, and they still saw it, and he smiled and disappeared, and later on, the lady was watching TV, and I guess the picture flashed up, and it was Jesse James, and
Okay.
So now they call the spirit Jesse James.
Okay, so the ghost looks like Jesse James.
Yeah. So, and then there's a few other stories I'm not going to get into because this episode's going to be too long.
Didn't Jesse James actually stay in this hotel?
Yes.
Like, it's not a stretch for him to be there.
There are murals painted by, or I don't know if they were painted by, but they were given to the hotel by the King of France, King
Louis something.
Louis, yeah.
It would have been Louis something if it was a king.
Anyways. Yeah, it's in the episode if you want to listen to it. And yeah, Jesse James shot up some of the murals because he was so drunk that he saw shit flying, like the butterflies flying around or movements or whatever.
Drunk?
Yeah, we discussed this in the episode.
Moonshine.
Whatever it was. Anyways. So there's that. Yeah, if you want to go back and listen to the episodes for Kentucky, that's that. Here are some extra facts about the Bluegrass State.
Oh, I thought you were going to say extra fun facts.
Well, extra fun facts.
I was like, these better be fun if they're extra fun.
Number 1, a typical Derby crowd guzzles 120,000 mint juleps and drains 7,000 liters of bourbon.
Jesus Christ.
Yep.
Holy shit.
Number 2, the Commonwealth of Kentucky, as it's known, was entered into the Union on June 1st, 1792 as the 15th state. Number 3, Mickey Nilsson, a resident of Bardstown, Kentucky, invented the motor car that runs on bourbon. Mickey got his inspiration from a character in the movie Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. Thus, he created a way to make his junk into a car that runs using Kentucky's bourbon.
Interesting.
Number 4, Vent Haven Museum in Fort Mitchell is where you can find the world's most extensive collection of ventriloquist dummies.
Yuck. No, thank you. I'd rather go to the Clown Museum.
I bet that place is haunted as fuck.
I'd rather go to the Clown Museum.
Number 5, Louisville is a city with a lot of history, including a Victorian preservation district that is the largest in the United States. The facades.
It's like face.
Facades of those homes are still standing to this day.
Wow.
Records of different native groups in Kentucky date back to over 15,000 years and cover many different cultural eras.
Yep.
In the 1000s CE, or current era, Kentucky was home to Mississippian and 4 ancient cultures. The most famous nations present in Kentucky were the Chickasaw, Lenape, Wyandot, Cherokee, and Shawnee.
Mm-hmm.
Number 7. In rural Breathitt County, the Lost Mountain coal mine has been abandoned for about 40 years, but it isn't hard to find. Just look for the plumes of billowing smoke. Don't bother calling 911, though. These underground coal fires seem nearly impossible to put out.
Oh, yeah. Like there was a whole town that had to be evacuated.
Yeah. Number 8. Throwing eggs at a public speaker can end in a year in prison.
Nice.
Number 9. A person is considered, quote, sober until he can't, quote, cannot hold onto the ground.
Gee. That's like, so what about for somebody who's super clumsy, just like sober and like trips all over themselves all the time?
Well, that's different. I mean, they could tell.
But if standing upright is your rubric for sobriety,
yeah. Anyways,
some of us are going to have a little bit more challenging time with that.
Yeah. Number 10. In Frankfurt, shooting off a policeman's tie is a crime.
Gee. Justice tie.
Those are part of those weird-ass laws that happen in every state.
I want to know the situation that transpired that sparked that law being written.
It's crazy. All right, now, here are some famous people from Kentucky. Out of hundreds of famous people, it was tough to choose. So There's
a lot of people that are famous from Kentucky?
Yeah.
Really?
A lot. So I'm going to read a few and then highlight a few historical figures. Actually, the ones I'm going to name now, and I'm just going to name what they did. George Clooney. Most people know him.
Oh, that explains why my grandma was so obsessed with him for so long.
Born in Lexington, Kentucky on May 6, 1961, he is an American actor, producer, director, writer, and activist. He is known for raising awareness for LGBTQ rights and helping those in political and environmental crises. For example, he and his father, Nick Clooney, worked tirelessly to bring global attention to the conflict in Darfur, Sudan, going as far as speaking to the United Nations and the European Union.
Wow.
One of the many humanitarian organizations he works with is called Not on Our Watch Project. So he's doing a lot of good stuff.
Wow. And he's married to, she's some type of lawyer that works with activist organizations, I think.
I don't know. Number 2, Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. was born in Louisville, Kentucky on January 17th, 1942. He was one of the greatest professional boxers of all time. He was an arch believer in religious freedom and racial justice. He had converted to Islam and, with that, even changed his name from Cassius Marcellus Clay to Muhammad Ali. Fun fact, it was a Louisville police officer who changed the fate of young Clay. Clay was enraged at a thief who stole his bicycle and told police officer Joe Martin that he wished to whip the robber. It was then that Martin suggested he learn boxing first. Martin served as his early coach, teaching him the technicalities of boxing.
What?
Ali recorded 56 wins throughout his career, of which 37 came in knockouts and 5 losses. He became the first and only 3-time lineal world heavyweight champion. The most historic matches were against Sonny Liston, Joe Frazier, and George Foreman. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 1984. The condition was mainly a result of the head injuries that he sustained during his boxing career. He died of a respiratory complication on June 3rd, 2016, in Scottsdale, Arizona at 74.
Oh, wow. So first of all, I didn't realize he passed away that recently.
Yeah.
And second of all, wow, he was young.
Yeah. All right, number 3, Isaac Burns Murphy was born into slavery on January 6, 1861, in Clark County, Kentucky. His mother, America Murphy, worked as a house-enslaved person on the Pleasant Green farm owned by David Tanner until the fall of 1864, when records indicate that she became a refugee at the Union Army Depot at Camp Nelson. Isaac's father, Jerry, had escaped from bondage, enlisted in the 114th U.S. Colored Troops at Camp Nelson in the summer of 1864, and would fight in some of the most decisive battles in 1865. Jerry died at Camp Nelson upon his return from war, likely of tuberculosis.
Yeah.
In 1867, America and Isaac moved in with family friend Eli Jordan. This man would become one of the most critical figures in Isaac's life. And this is a guy that I'm highlighting.
Okay.
So,
I was like...
this is a longer one.
Okay.
Eli was a prominent horse trainer who worked for the Williams and Owings stables. And according to historian Paul McDaniels, Isaac may have been the son... Eli never had, and he impressed on the boy his definition of manhood, the importance of prudence and honesty, and benefits of being consistent in all things. Murphy began his racing career riding for Williams and Owings stables in 1875 at 14.
Wow.
One of the most illustrious careers in the history of the sport followed, during which Murphy became one of the highest paid athletes and among the most famous black men in America.
Was it Derby racing, I'm guessing?
Yes.
Okay.
Murphy rode in 11 Kentucky Derbies, winning 3 times, on Buchanan in 1884, Riley in 1890, and Kingman in 1891. Kingman was owned by Jacobin Stables, co-owners Preston Kinzia Stone and Dudley Allen, and trained by Dudley Allen, and was the first horse co-owned by an African-American to win the Derby.
Wow.
Murphy is the only jockey to have won the Kentucky Derby, the Kentucky Oaks, and the Clark Handicap in the same year, in 1884.
Wow.
On August 26, 1890, at the Monmouth Handicap, Isaac fell off his horse, Ferenzi, after crossing the finish line in last place. Given that Murphy and Ferenzi had been the presumed favorites, along with long-standing rumors about Isaac's ritual of drinking champagne before races, stories began to circulate that Isaac had been racing drunk. Following the incident, Isaac was suspended from racing pending an investigation. Isaac strongly refuted the claim, maintaining that he had been drugged.
I mean,
it's possible. Yeah.
If somebody's got money on another horse,
yep.
You know, or bitterness about the fact that he was a black man so successful in a white man's world.
Yeah, pretty much. Given Isaac's long-standing reputations as a clean rider, some press members defended the jockey and called the accusations unfounded.
Yeah.
Further adding to the scandal, it was found that bettors had uncharacteristically wagered heavily against Ferenzi, betting instead on William Lakeland's tea tray as the race drew near.
Okay.
Among those betting on tea tray was notable race plunger Dave Johnson, who had lost $25,000, which was over $750,000 today.
Jesus Christ.
Betting against Murphy on Salvatore earlier that year. I mean... Like
I said before, if somebody powerful enough has enough money on another horse or has lost money or has any kind of vendetta against you for any reason...
Yep. For the rest of his life, Isaac maintained that he had been poisoned, and although he would race again, the accusation of drunkenness tainted the rest of his career.
Damn.
Yeah. Murphy died of heart failure in Lexington, Kentucky on February 16, 1896. And while his funeral was attended by over 500 members of the community, over time, his unmarked grave in African Cemetery No. 2 was forgotten. During the 1960s, Frank B. Borys Jr., a University of Kentucky press specialist, spent 3 years searching for the grave site, and in 1967, Murphy was reinterred at the Old Man o' War burial site. With the Kentucky Horse Park building, his remains were moved to be buried again next to Man o' War at the entrance to the park. Side note, Man o' War was a famous racehorse born in 1917. He came from a whole family of racehorses.
Yes.
Well-known horse.
Yes.
According to Frank's calculations, Murphy won 628 of his 1,412 starts.
Jeez.
A 44% victory rate that has never been equaled, and a record about which Hall of Fame jockey Eddie Arcaro said, quote, "There is no chance that this record of winning will ever be surpassed." By a later calculation of incomplete records, his record stands at 530 wins in 1,538 rides. which still makes his win rate 34%. In 1940, Murphy was honored with one of the 33 dioramas featured at the American Negro Exposition in Chicago. In 1955, he was inducted into the Jockeys Hall of Fame at Saratoga, New York. In 1995, the National Turf Riders Association has given the Isaac Murphy Award to the jockey with the highest winning percentage for the year in North American racing from a minimum of 500 mounts.
Wow.
So that was the historical figure Isaac Burns Murphy.
Awesome.
All right, number 4. Garrett Augustus Morgan was born in Claysville, Kentucky on March 4th, 1877. His mother, Elizabeth Reed, was enslaved while his father, Garrett Augustus Morgan, who was born in Claysville, Kentucky on March 4th, 1877. His mother, Elizabeth Reed, was enslaved while his father, Sidney Morgan, was a liberated chattel slave of Colonel John H. Morgan of Morgan's Raiders. He had a brother named Frank. He attended Branch Elementary School and dropped out from there after 6th grade. Later, he moved to Ohio in search of employment. Garrett Morgan began his career as a handyman for a Cincinnati landowner. In 1895, he started repairing sewing machines.
Oh.
During this period, he invented a belt fastener for sewing machines. After a decade of experience with sewing equipment, he launched his own sewing machine in 1907.
Oh.
In 1908, Morgan founded the Cleveland Association of Colored Men. Under his leadership, the community helped improve the social and economic status of African Americans.
Love that.
The community later merged with NAACP.
Oh, okay.
In 1909, the inventor expanded his venture by opening Morgan's Cut-Rate Ladies' Clothing Store. Then in 1912, he developed the smoke hood. Its success later resulted in the formation of the National Safety Device Company.
Wow.
Morgan's business began to flourish rapidly with the creation of some hair care products.
Jeez.
Their invention led him to launch the G.A. Morgan Hair Refining Company, which started selling the hair care products, including a hair straightening comb, and cream and hair color. In 1920, he founded a weekly newspaper called the Cleveland Call. Later in 1938, the newspaper merged with the Cleveland Call and Post newspaper. Morgan was an honorable member of the Antioch Baptist Church, the Prince Hall of Freemason Fraternal Organization, and the International Association of Fire Engineers during his lifetime.
Wow.
He did a lot of stuff.
Jeez.
While working with sewing machines, Morgan experimented with a liquid that polished sewing machine needles to prevent them from scorching fabric.
Oh.
Later in 1905, he discovered that the liquid could also be used to straighten hair. This liquid was then made into a hair straightening cream.
Wow.
He also invented a curved tooth hair straightening comb and a black hair oil dye.
Wow.
He devised a safety hood smoke protection equipment that helped execute emergency respiration. He filed for a patent on the equipment in 1912 and later marketed it via his company, the National Safety Device Company. Simple and effective, his gas mask earned a gold medal from International Association of Fire Chiefs.
Okay, so you're saying smoke hood. It was a gas mask. I'm thinking like hood over your stove.
Yeah, I think it's that, like, you put over your head, I'm guessing.
Okay. A pre-gas mask type gas mask type situation. Okay. No, I just wanted to clarify, because what I was picturing, not necessarily, I think, what you were talking about.
After witnessing a road accident, Morgan filed a patent for a 3-position traffic signal in 1922. However, his invention was not the first ever traffic signal. Several 3-light systems with audible warnings were already in use.
Oh.
Morgan invented a self-extinguishing cigarette. The device employed a small plastic pellet with water placed right before the filter.
Oh!
That's pretty handy.
Yeah.
Besides being a successful inventor, Garrett Morgan was known for his heroic rescue operation in 1960 to save workers trapped in an underground tunnel 250 feet below Lake Erie.
Oh my god.
To rescue them, he used his patented smoke hood and helped retrieve the bodies of those who didn't survive. Although the media and city officials ignored his act of heroism and issued medals to other men involved in the rescue.
Of course.
White men.
Yep. Tell them about it.
11. Morgan was later awarded a diamond-studded gold medal by some Cleveland citizens.
Go ahead.
From 1896 to 1898, Garrett Morgan was married to Madge Nelson. In 1908, he married his second wife, Mary Hazick. They had 3 children, John, Garrett, and Cosmo. In his later life, Morgan developed glaucoma and was functionally blind in 1943. On July 27, 1963, he died in Cleveland, Ohio at 86. His inventions have had a significant impact on the well-being of people all across the globe. Case Western University awarded Morgan an honorary degree. The Garrett A. Morgan Water Treatment Plant and the Garrett A. Morgan Cleveland School of Science have been named after him. In Prince George's County, Maryland, a street called Garrett A. Morgan Boulevard has been named in his honor. He is still remembered as one of the most popular African-American inventors.
Wow.
Yep. And that was the history of Garrett Morgan.
So, and here's a picture of the hood in question.
Okay, yeah, so it is a large hood that covers your entire head.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's pretty cool.
It looks crazy, but...
Yeah, but if it works...
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And finally, one last one. Number 5, Lucy Lawson was born in Waddy, Kentucky in 1886. Assigned male at birth from a very early age, Anderson was adamant that she was not male, identifying as female in a period before the term transgender existed and naming herself Lucy.
Aww.
Doctors told Anderson's parents to let her live as a young woman, so they did, and she began wearing dresses to school and being known as Lucy.
Wow.
So yeah, in a time where...
So, when was this?
This was in... so she was born in 1886.
Okay.
So in a very early age, so like the late 1800s.
Yeah, okay, so anyone who says that transgenderism is like new...
It's not. No.
Complete and utter bullshit. Like, God, obvious. Like, this
and
is from the late 1800s.
Men have been cross-dressing for centuries, so...
I mean, Shakespeare coined the term drag.
Yeah.
It's like, just let people live their fucking lives.
Exactly. At 15, Anderson left school and did domestic work to support herself. At age 20, she headed west to Pecos, Texas, where she worked in a hotel, and then to New Mexico, where she married her first husband, Clarence Hicks, in Silver City, New Mexico, in 1920. She later moved to Oxnard, California, at the age of 34. A skilled chef, she won some baking contests. Her marriage to Clarence lasted only 9 years, but during the union, she saved up enough money to buy a property that was a boarding house front for a brothel. It also sold illegal liquor during the Prohibition era.
Man, everywhere sold illegal liquor.
What wasn't?
Prohibition.
Outside of her time as a madam, she was a well-known socialite and hostess in Oxnard and would later use her connections to avoid serious jail time.
Wow.
According to scholar C. Riley Snorton, when the sheriff arrested her one night, her double-barreled reputation paid off. Charles Donlan, the town's leading banker, promptly bailed her out because he had scheduled a huge dinner party which would have collapsed dismally with Lucy in jail.
Oh, wow.
In 1944, Hicks remarried Reuben Anderson, a soldier stationed in Long Island, New York. In 1945, a sailor claimed he caught a venereal disease from one of the women in Anderson's brothel, so all women, including Anderson, were required to undergo a medical examination. When the Ventura County District Attorney learned from this examination that Anderson had been assigned male at birth, he chose to try her for perjury, arguing that she lied about her sex on her marriage license and impersonated a woman.
Oh, my God.
During the trial, she stated, "I defy any doctor in the world to prove that I am not a woman, and I have lived, dressed, and acted just what I am, a woman." However, the court convicted her of perjury on her marriage license and sentenced her to 10 years of probation. At the time, marriage was only valid between a man and a woman, and she was not deemed a woman, so the marriage was declared invalid.
Jeez.
As a result, the federal government charged her with fraud for receiving the financial allotments wives of soldiers got under the GI Bill, and initially failing to register for the draft until she proved she had been too old to register.
Jesus fucking Christ.
In this trial, she and Reuben were found guilty and sentenced to a men's prison where Anderson was forbidden by court order to wear women's clothes. After being released from prison, Anderson was barred from returning to Oxnard by the police chief, threatening further prosecution. She and Reuben relocated to Los Angeles, where they resided quietly until her death in 1954 at age 68.
So young!
I know. The Handbook of LGBT Elders calls Anderson, quote, "one of the earliest documented cases of an African-American transgender person." Episode 2 of the 4-part HBO docuseries Equal is based on the life of Anderson.
Oh.
And I have yet to watch that, but that sounds pretty cool. So that is the end of this episode.
Wow.
Do you have anything?
I don't. Wow.
No? Yeah, if you guys are interested, if you haven't already, go back and listen to previous episodes. Our next state is going to be Texas. After that, I'm going to reformat the podcast. We're going to just stick to local Missouri hauntings and then maybe expand from there. I just want to, change stuff around and mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes if you try something and it's not working or it doesn't feel right, there's no shame in pivoting and trying something a little different.
Yeah, well, people have been asking me, how about you do this in Missouri? This place is haunted and this place.
So you're getting requests?
I'm getting requests. It's just like, okay, I've already done Missouri, but like, we're going to go ahead and do Texas, finish that up.
Right.
Continue to do our bonus episodes until that's done.
I've got more stuff for Arkansas.
Yeah.
So
you can, we've got a lot of stuff in Missouri that we can go through.
Arkansas is pretty local adjacent.
Yeah, I mean,
too,
the Ozarks area,
right? And
then expand a little bit from there. So we're gonna try that and see what happens.
Yeah.
And make sure you guys, if you're interested, holler at me, email me if you have any requests,
any personal stories that you would be okay with us sharing on the podcast.
Yeah. If any requests, if you know anybody that does and want to tell them about the podcast, I know there's not very many episodes right now, but I'm trying to get back into it and hopefully to have more soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, just email me at afraidishpodcast@gmail.com, Instagram and Facebook at afraidishpodcast. The website is down right now because I'm trying to find a
different hosting platform. Yeah.
A different host. And then, of course, all the links for those will be in the show notes. Rate and review on Apple Podcasts, rate on Spotify, and that's it.
Yeah.
And as always, don't be
afraid. Oh.
Let's try that again. I think she forgot what we're supposed to do. Don't be afraid of the dark. Be afraid-ish.
Oh, God. See, it's been so long.
All right, last time. Don't be afraid of the dark.
Be afraid-ish of what's in it.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.